going on, y'all? So, of course, CPI report, CPI data was released this morning, 8:30 a.m., and you guessed it, it is a lot higher. The spike actually was the fastest last month in August than it was over the past 2 months. Including food and energy prices, it increased by a total of 0.6%. If we take out volatile prices, fuel, and food, and we're looking at core CPI, this is what the Fed looks at, it's an increase of 0.3%. Analysts projected a 0.2% increase, so of course that came in overstated. And we're not surprised. You've seen the difference in your energy prices, you've seen the difference in your grocery bill, and we're not surprised, right? You'd be surprised the effect that energy, the cost of energy, the rise in energy has on services, products and services. The energy sector, the rise in energy prices took up more than half of the increase in overall CPI. So that is actually up on an annual basis, 3.7%. It's up from July from 3.2%. I'm going to throw out a lot of numbers here. Just stick with me, but I'm going to explain the basics. But this is just to put things into perspective on what to expect. And which makes sense on the rise in energy costs. Airfares increased by 4.9%, although that number is down year over year by about 13%. Your transportation services increased by 2%. Your energy costs, your energy prices alone increased by 5.6%. Gasoline up from last month, 10.6%, and your food prices are up by 0.2%. Let's take a step back and let's look at the basics on why energy is a huge contributing factor to the economy. Let's look at agriculture, specifically your farmers. When energy prices increase, this is going to cause the crop production process to increase, the cost for farmers. For one, that's automatically going to pass that cost on to who? Us, the consumers. The price to cost that ship, the price to ship that crop is also going to increase. Why? Because the logistics company, the transportation company, their expense with fuel increases as well. So there's two factors, just basics. Two factors where two increases in prices are going to be passed on to the consumer. So now, where those crops are going, whether it's a supermarket, whether it's a wholesaler, distributor, restaurant depot, whatever, their overhead prices are going to be higher because of energy costs are increasing. So they're going to tack on an additional increase in price, right? So you'll see how just on a basic level, that's three factors that are actually increased on our end, why our grocery bills and our food expenses are higher. Let's look from a transportation standpoint. Airlines, of course, the airlines are going to increase their airfares because why? Their number one biggest expense is what? You guessed it, oil, energy. So that's going to be passed on to us. Let's add on a hurricane that just hit Libya. So that took a hit on the production or the shipment of oil. So that's less supply. A couple of months ago, the OPEC Plus, these are essentially just look at them as regulators of the oil industry. With Saudi Arabia, they're reducing the production of oil. So that's less oil in supply with higher demand. So your basics of supply and demand, more demand, less supply, that's going to drive the price up. So sorry to scare you, but there are also projected measures to reduce oil production going into 2024. So that's only going to increase the price of oil. So it's going to be interesting to see where the Fed goes next week. I know they did say that this may not have, not this specifically, but they did mention that this report may not have an effect on them hiking rates one more time. But hey, we'll see. You know, it's also one of those things you got to tack on. What's going to make it more expensive is the rates that have been increasing. Credit is tighter, money's more expensive, and credit card fees are a lot higher for businesses. So that's another cost that's passed on to us. So this is a cycle that, I just want us to pay attention to. I rarely ever, if anything, this is probably my first time ever saying this in a video. It has nothing to do with Joe Biden. It has nothing to do with Trump or whatever. It has everything to do with just factors that are happening in the economy, world trade, that we have to pass on to the consumers. And we have our people in place to be reactive and sometimes proactive to manage it. So for my religiously political people, it has nothing to do with Democrats. It has nothing to do with Republicans. This is economics. And we have people in place that put policies and changes in place to ensure that we can have a livable standard, I guess, if that's what you want to say, that we have a growing economy, that employment is as low as it can possibly be, and everyone has fair trade. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with Joe Biden. Oh, prices were this when it's Trump. We can just tell you have no idea what you're talking about. So just wanted to touch on the CPI. Obviously, we've seen the price increase in our bills and our expenses and whatnot. It's going to be interesting to see where we go. What are your thoughts?